fellow Tamers and Digidestined, it's Mike, aka Sanaku from Overground, and welcome to episode 1 of the 1.5 Rainbow series. If you remember, we did this as well at the beginning of 1.0. The Rainbow series is a series of videos where we build decks, one of every color, based on the contents of what we were able to pull from our individual boxes, and we kind of use these decks as kind of a baseline first draft to kind of get an idea of how our favorite strategies, our favorite archetypes work, and also to kind of get our foot in the door to kind of understand how each color works with every new set release. Now, in this case, unfortunately, you weren't able to see what we pulled this time. We did actually try our first foray into streaming, where we tried opening the rest of our boxes other than the two that I first opened on the channel on Twitch, but the VOD did not get recorded because we didn't have that setting checked. Unfortunately, we were not aware of that. So there will not be any more box openings moving forward because they're already open, they're already gone. But we were able to basically collect everything we absolutely needed from the set, and we're able to basically build all of the decks we were super excited for. And one of the decks that you know I'm really excited for, and you know that if you've been following the channel since the beginning, is ShineGreymon. So I'm launching the first episode of the 1.5 Rainbow series with yellow as my first color of choice, and we're going to talk about the ShineGreymon deck specifically. Now, I'll apologize because this video should have been up a lot sooner, but this deck is just so damn hard to build, and it's gone through so many iterations, it's gone through so many drafts. I had actually already recorded this video and I was going to have it up maybe 2 days ago, but I wasn't confident with the list that I presented earlier, and I kind of trashed the whole deck and started from scratch. And the reason it's so hard to build is because it's so tight. You need to make space for so many cards specifically, namely the Tamers, as for the most part. And you need to kind of... A lot of the cards that you would want to play in this are very matchup and metagame specific. So I feel like the evolution of the deck is constantly changing depending on which event I'm entering and what I'm expecting to see on a regular basis. So while this is technically the quote-unquote first draft that I'm presenting on the channel, I will be going over other cards and other alternatives that you can play depending on what you're expecting in your local and regional metagames if you're going to be entering other events, be it big or small, in the future. So let's go ahead and get into the deck list that I have here. And again, is this deck 100% the best version of the deck? Not necessarily. Is it a lot of fun that I'm having a lot of success with? Yes. So let's go ahead and talk about it, and I'll kind of go through my personal choices as to how I've landed on this build. And as you'll see, a lot of ratios and a lot of options echo a lot of ratios and other options from other ShineGreymon decks that you've likely seen all over the internet. And that's just because these are kind of tried and true. I've changed and messed around with ratios as I've come together with this. And sometimes I've kind of gone back and forth and just realized that one version of a ratio is more optimized than another, and it was kind of counteractive to what I was originally thinking in my other theories. And I'll kind of talk about those theories as well. So starting with the Digi-egg, we've got 4 Upamon now. Upamon's arguably one of the best new additions in the Digi-egg kind of front in general for all of the colors. Every color got a very, very powerful Digi-egg to kind of round out their arsenal. And for yellow, it's Upamon. And what Upamon does is basically gives yellow a bit more draw power. As we've discussed in previous ShineGreymon videos early on in the channel, back in like October, this deck plays really well and gets very strong when you hit that kind of 3 security threshold. And Upamon I've kind of talked about at length in past videos as well. Actually, most of these cards I've talked about at length as well. But I'll kind of talk about how they all tie together in this version of the deck as well. But Upamon, again, if you have 3 or fewer security on attack declaration, you get to draw 1 card. So that adds an extra layer of consistency, especially if you're falling behind, which ShineGreymon technically does fall behind on purpose to try to kind of snowball advantage over your opponent. And then that helps you kind of collect more resources over the course of the game as you may be falling behind to come back in and then just kind of destroy your opponent's board with ShineGreymon. The 5th egg we're playing, this one keeps changing. Originally it was Tokamon. It was Tokamon for the longest time because I felt that with the DP reduction strategy that we were going for in the deck, Tokamon's effect came up the most. But I switched it to Cupimon just because Cupimon is another egg that gives us consistency. But I find it only really works if we're going like first. So I found with Cupimon that kind of helps me dig a little bit deeper, and if I do go first, I can just bring something up, attack with it right away, get a free draw, and go from there. Cupimon doesn't really get a lot of value often, but it is still worth playing just to get that potential consistency hit. Then we're going to move on to the 4 Patamon. This is the starter deck Patamon, arguably one of the best rookies in the deck, giving you that extra memory every time you get to reduce DP to 0. Now we're going to move on to 3 Lopmon. Originally, I had Lopmon at 4, I had Lopmon at 2. 3, I think, is the best option for Lopmon. We discussed Lopmon again in earlier ShineGreymon videos and kind of talked about how it's very, very important to have that extra consistency. And touching upon that whole 3 security threshold that we talked about, you know, to trigger your Upamons, trigger your Karis, to gain you more advantage overall. Lopmon lets you kind of play around your opponent playing around you. If your opponent tries to kind of keep you at that 4 security kind of milestone and doesn't want to pursue any further attacks to try to play around your your effects, Lopmon can actually get you into that 3 security threshold and kind of damage yourself to give you more consistency, because you do get to draw an additional card with her effect, but also allows you kind of trigger your very powerful effects to progress your own personal game state. Next, we've got Salamon. Salamon is the on deletion. If you have 3 of your security, you get to recover 1. And again, this kind of goes in tandem with the strategy with Lopmon, because you can take a security with Lopmon, put yourself 2/3, then attack with Salamon, have it destroyed into your opponent's security, because it'll probably die to the security Digimon that's battling, then you actually get to recover that back. So not only did you get a free draw with Lopmon, you also get to take a security away from your opponent while recovering 1 yourself. And that's a really good trade, because you get to equalize the security race while putting yourself just a little bit more ahead. And then finally, the last 2 rookies are Tsukaimon. Now, Tsukaimon has been replaced with a bunch of different rookies in the past. This has been Labramon. This has been the new rare Salamon from 1.5. And then with the inheritable of on attack declaration, you get to minus 1000 from something. All very powerful Digimon in their own right. However, I found that Tsukaimon was just a little bit better in the sense that because it's 2 cost, and I'm generally starting my turn with 3 with this TK that I should usually have in play, it just allows me to get more Digimon into play while limiting the amount of memory I'm giving my opponent. And at the end of the day, triggering my effects was not as important as controlling the flow of the game in terms of memory. So that's why this rounds out our rookie lineup the way it is with Tsukaimon. Now we're going to move on to the champions, and this kind of ties into the whole ratios have changed kind of over and over again. Originally, we were playing 4 Repamon and 3 blockers. And I was only playing 11 rookies at one point, actually, too, because I was playing the 4 Repamon, and I figured I can get away with playing a lower count of rookies because I'm playing 4 copies of a Digimon that has the cost to hard play of a rookie. So it kind of equaled itself out. However, I found that I did want the 4th blocker, because ShineGreymon is a deck that takes a little bit of time to set up. So you need to have that early defense, and I kind of lost sight of that value by taking the 4th Unimon out. So I did bring Repamon back down to 3. We upped our rookie count back to 12 to compensate for that, and then we put Unimon back at 4. And our last champion that we're going to talk about is Chirurumon. Chirurumon is the new 1-cost evolution that we got in 1.5. Yellow desperately needed this. They did not have a 1-cost evolution up to this point. And Chirurumon's just very strong, helps you kind of turbo and accelerate into your ShineGreymon plays. Other champions that you could consider for this deck as well are something like Geogreymon, which is very powerful. That has the inheritable to minus something by 2000 on attack declaration, so that can kind of help you. Same argument for the Salamon, the rare Salamon that I touched upon, that can eke out certain DP thresholds that ShineGreymon himself might have not been able to completely destroy the Digimon with. So sometimes having those inheritables can kind of take you over the edge to take out Digimon that you otherwise wouldn't have been able to, because you just didn't have enough Tamers in play. But I like this ratio. I feel like these are the most consistent champions you can play, the cheapest champions you can play, because we're all about getting to ShineGreymon as soon as possible. So now let's move on to the ultimates. So we got 4 Rise Greymon. Rise Greymon is arguably the most important card in the entire deck, because we're playing a deck based solely on getting Tamers out onto the field. So Rise Greymon helps us accelerate our Tamers by getting a Tamer into play for free when we Digivolve over him. Next, we got 3 Sirenmon. And again, this is one of those times where we could have a replacement. I actually have the card in front of me now, so I'll talk about it. Sirenmon can be replaced with Antilamon. Antilamon is a new card we got in 1.5, because now we have 2 options for 2-cost Digivolutions in yellow. The reason why I like Sirenmon more is because it's only 5 to hard drop, and as we said, the name of the game is to get ShineGreymon into play as soon as possible. So by slamming down an ultimate for a very small memory investment allows us to set up a Shine on the immediate next turn and puts pressure on our opponent to deal with his ultimate immediately. Whereas if we played Antilamon, we could potentially give our opponent more memory to deal with this Digimon. And while I do think that the 8000 DP is worth noting, especially in terms of when you're looking at this TK that gives our security Digimon plus 2000 a pop, I valued Sirenmon a little bit more because we're in an Imperial Dramon meta as well, where we're running against a lot of jamming Digimon. So despite this TK being very powerful and having 2 TK in play can bust this Antilamon up to like something like 12,000, having jamming in the format made the DP of the Digimon I'm playing in general largely irrelevant. So that's why I chose to continue playing Siren, because I valued the speed over the power. And finally, the last ultimate we're playing is the 2 Anjouwomon. This Anjouwomon has been back and forth between the starter deck Anjouwomon and the 1.5 Anjouwomon ever since I've built this deck in real life. And it kind of, again, it depends on the format that you're going to be going into. Anjouwomon's very powerful because when Digivolve, if you have 3 of your security cards, you get to recover 1. And as we've noticed and talked about, a lot of our strategy is dependent on getting to that 3 security threshold to get all of our powerful effects online. And what Anjouwomon does is that it just allows us to bump ourselves back up to 4, so that way our opponent can't necessarily take advantage of the fact that we're only at 3 security to kill us. So Anjouwomon helps us stay in the game a little bit longer. But there is arguments to play this 1.5 on Digimon. This one reads that when Digivolving, we can give one of our opponent's Digimon security attack -2. So instead of gaining an extra security, it prevents one of our opponent's Digimon from attacking our security, which is also very strong. But the reason you do want to play this on Digimon is for the inheritable, because when you're attacking, you get to play a yellow Digimon that's level 3 from your hand without paying its memory cost. So this helps you go a little bit wider, a little bit faster to potentially threaten game on the next turn if your opponent cannot deal with your board the way it is. This 101 is just a little bit stronger in DP, but largely you're not ever going to be attacking with this one specifically. But I value the recovery because I'm playing the 3 Lopmon specifically over the inability to stop attacks, because I'm playing another Digimon that can stop our opponent from attacking your security, which we'll talk to in a second. So we'll move on to the Megas. Big boss daddy of the deck, ShineGreymon. You know him, you love him, you know exactly what he does, but we'll talk about him briefly. For every Tamer in play on Digivolution, you suspend all of your yellow Tamers, and you get to get an instance of minusing one Digimon on the field by 4,000. As long as the math adds up, I can kind of sprinkle these 4,000 shots anywhere I want to kind of just machine gun and tear down my opponent's board. Now, the last 2 Megas we're playing, and it's a bit of a controversial choice because this Mega has rotated, this flex spot here has rotated out and about a million times ever since I built this deck. And right now, we're landing on Kentorosmon. Now, why? Originally, in the very, very, very first draft of the deck, this was /Angemon. And /Angemon does kind of gel well with the deck's overall win condition in terms of reducing our opponent's DP to 0. But Kentorosmon can also do that, albeit a little bit more delayed. So where /Angemon gave us a shot right away on Digivolution, he only carried with him an 8,000 DP body. And a lot of the times you're finding that you're evolving over your ShineGreymon just to deal with the threat. And I found that when I evolved my /Angemon on top of my ShineGreymon, sure, my /Angemon had security attack +1. However, with 8,000 DP and with no real way to kind of buff our DP in this deck, there was no way he was ever getting 2 checks in. And I just found building up an entire stack to end on a /Angemon was really, really, really subpar, because he's only taking out 1 threat on his own. And after I attack with him, he's kind of done. And I don't want to not attack with him, because then I'm getting no value out of having the stack in play. So I feel like as soon as I built up to that /Angemon, I'm basically just trading him for something else, and he's just becoming a sacrifice at the cost of taking out one of my opponent's Digimon. So instead, I went to the drawing board and I looked at Kentorosmon and I said, well, hey, Kentorosmon is the same Digivolution cost. I can go into him for 3, and then I can stop one of my opponents from attacking as opposed to killing it outright. And then, because I have security attack +1 potentially with this ShineGreymon, I can then go into my opponent's security. And then if it dies, I can still take out one of my opponent's Digimon, because I have the ability to reduce a Digimon by 11,000 as opposed to 8,000. So that actually gives me a wider breadth of targets to hit. And so with Kentorosmon, it allows me to be a bit more aggressive while also being a bit more defensive at the exact same time. Because if my opponent has multiple Digimon out, /Angemon still would have only been able to take out 1. And what Kentorosmon can do is that it can prevent 1 from attacking and then destroy another if it gets destroyed in the security check. I can also crash Kentorosmon into one of my opponent's suspended Digimon to take out another one of their Digimon. So while /Angemon only dealt with 1 threat, Kentorosmon can potentially deal with 2 in the sense that it prevents 1 from attacking us and then eliminates the second completely. And I felt that that was just a lot more valuable than just the /Angemon on his own. Other notable suggestions could be that this Kentorosmon becomes Seraphimon, because that's goes kind of in tandem with the recovery side strategy that we're playing as well, to kind of keep ourselves in the game a little bit longer. We're in a format where there's a lot of high DP Digimon hiding in security, more so than we had in 1.0. So the odds of your Digimon actually not surviving the security check is very, very high. And that's why I wanted to include Kentorosmon, so that way I could get value over the potential, or rather the guarantee rather, that I will not survive that security check. Then we're going to move on to the last option, literal last options of the deck, not excluding the Tamers, and that is 1 Glorious Burst and 1 Eden's Javelin. In previous drafts of the deck, we were playing kind of a 2 of one, 2 of another, and then in some versions of the deck I was playing just 2 Glorious Burst or just 2 Lightning Eden's Javelin. I found that just having the 1-1 split is actually really nice, because it adds a lot more kind of opportunity to trigger each one in different stages of the game. Having 2 Glorious Burst meant that if I got both in my security and I revealed them with my TK, that felt really bad, because I felt pressured to kind of grab one, and then that meant the other one was just kind of sit there uselessly. And then having the Eden's Javelin means that if I see it in my security, I can just leave it there. And especially since we're in an Imperial Dramon meta, and with Rookie Rush, with the Vmon with jamming, we're in a high jamming meta, so I wanted to have more cards in my security that can potentially deal with Digimon that have jamming. Especially if you look at like something like Black with Craniumon, for example, the Greymon champion that gives something with reboot jamming. So Eden's Javelin is kind of the anti-jamming out. And this is what I talk about when I say the options that you play in this deck are very metagame dependent. So if you're expecting a big jamming meta, I would recommend maybe playing multiple Eden's Javelin. If you're expecting a lot of green, I would recommend multiple Glorious Burst, because Glorious Burst can deal with something like Sarismons. If you're seeing a lot of black, Glorious Burst can deal with Greymon himself, because you're destroying it through game mechanics. So it really honestly depends on what you're expecting to see. Glorious Burst also does really well in the mirror match to get rid of your opponent's ShineGreymons. But another card that you could play in yellow that's very strong is something like Lightning Paw, for example, because this is very strong in Rookie Rush matchup. It gives up to 3 opponents level 3 Digimon minus 4,000. If you're expecting to see a lot of Rookie Rush, maybe make room for one Lightning Paw, or maybe even double up on both. Make that your 2 options that you're going to play in the deck completely. It all depends on what you think you're going to see and what you want to be the strongest option for the arsenal in your deck to deal with the expected metagame. The problem with that is all about predicting and learning trends, and that's very difficult to do in an ever-evolving game like Digimon, and an ever-evolving meta like the one we're in with 1.5, which is just ripe with experimentation across the board, and you're going to see different decks every single day. So this is what I'm rocking for now, just to kind of cover the majority of my bases, and again, these might change and be subject to modification depending on how the meta kind of ramps up. And then finally, we're going to talk about the Tamers. There isn't really much to say here, so we're just going to kind of gloss over them really quick. We're playing 4 of the set 1 TK. He's the most important Tamer in the entire deck. He's almost like a search card of sorts, because we get to go through our security, take one card that we like, add it to our hand, and then recover again. Not only that, he lets us go to 3 every turn, which is very critical to all of our plays, because a lot of our Digimon cost 3, and it's kind of the linchpin of how we're going to play our deck. Then this TK gives 2,000 to our security Digimon, and this Kari is the very powerful Kari. Again, we're on that 3 security game, because if we have 3 or less security cards, at the start of our turn, we get 1 extra memory. So this, in combination with our set 1 TK, allows us to start our turn with 4, 5, maybe 6 memory, depending on how many cards we get into play. So that is it for episode 1 of the Rainbow series. This is my first, although not really first, draft of the Yellow ShineGreymon deck. If you guys have any thoughts or suggestions on how you would improve this deck, or if you have any comments based on what I've discussed so far, please feel free to leave a comment on the video and let me know what you think. If you like what we do here at Overground and you enjoyed this video, please consider giving this video a like. And if you want to see more content like this, and if you're excited for the remainder episodes of the Rainbow series, feel free to subscribe, and that way you will be notified when more of these episodes come out. I have been Mike, aka Sanaku, and I'll see you guys in the next one.